Welcome, adventurers. I'm Felix, a game designer at BCom Studios in Quebec City, here to talk to you today about our new game, Sunday Gold. What is Sunday Gold? It's a new game that's going to come out on September 13th. It's a thriller adventure game with RPG and JRPG elements in the comic book style, as you can see right now. It's the labor of 20 to 25, roughly, people that are developers, artists, creators, very talented people that worked for quite a long time on this game that we're presenting now. That you can also... Today I'm playing the Prologue that is now on Steam for free, that you can download and play right now. So you can go pick it up and play the part that I'm going to be playing today and see how the game feels, if you like it. Discover some of the stuff that I'm not going to show in the Prologue right now because I didn't show everything that you can see. Sunday Gold is a game that was developed by BCom Studios and is published by Team 17 for PC on Steam. It's, like as I said, the comic book style, and it has some spicy language, so it's mature for a mature audience, so be advised. Don't let your babies play with it. And in a couple minutes we're going to see how the game goes. Just we can take in the atmosphere right now, the music, the rain, the characters that are mysterious right now, but you're going to discover more about them in a couple minutes. What more is there to say? We have been working on that game for 2.5 years, and it's really exciting, so that's why I'm kind of beside myself right now, trying to kind of contain myself because I'm really excited it's going to come out, and it's going to be in the wild in a couple of weeks now, and everybody's going to have a chance to play it. So now let's get started. We're going to see the intro, put things into context, and see what happened with the characters 2 years before the game starts, as the text on screen will tell you in a couple seconds. So 2 years ago, we see someone getting ready for some action.
Frank, Sally, get in gear!
Because now we have 3 criminals trying to steal a valuable statuette from something that looks like a museum or maybe somebody's private collection. Now, old Frank is coming in hot with his awesome plan to get the thing and get out. But nothing goes according to plan, and now, you know, it hits the fan.
Come on, Frank,
and we have to
need to
deal with
vacate
it.
these premises
So,
now.
It's not going well. And now, Frank and Sally's friend is going to go out blazing, with guns blazing, and while the other 2 escape. So she doesn't sound too happy about it. Now we're back to the characters' current day. We're in 2070 London. It's a tough night out in the town for Frank. He just got tossed out of the bar, of the pub. And now we get a little context of what's happening. The city is gloomy and futuristic, but there's still some classic stuff mixed in with all the modern stuff. So now Frank gets a message on his phone.
Now get lost!
Now we can hear and read what the characters are saying, because when there's conversations between characters, everything's fully voiced over in English. So the game, if you play the game in not English, you're going to be able to hear the English voices, but see the translated text on the screen in your chosen language. If for some reason you're watching me in English, but you speak French, every voice in the game is going to be voiced by French Canadian actors in Quebec. So we are a company from Quebec, and we have a French version that's going to be like voiced in Quebec. So now we see that Frank is in trouble with
Where the hell is
his
Sally?
mob
supposed to be here
sort
20
of
goddamn minutes
loan
ago.
officer that's gonna try to collect, but Frank doesn't have any money
Hey,
because
Frank,
he's broke.
almost there. Got stuck in bloody
Because
freight traffic.
Frank, as a
Get your
career
back
criminal,
Don't worry.
has been
Yes,
hitting a
it's
rough
well
patch
worth it.
lately, and he hasn't made any money
Well, that's
from
promising. Now I just
his
need a way back
crime
into
and
the pub.
thievery and stuff. So now we can take in the atmosphere. We've seen sort of the atmosphere in the title screen and the main menu and the intro cinematics, but now we can see how it feels during the gameplay. This is how gameplay looks. Everything feels hand-drawn and painted, so it's really stylistic and stylish. It feels a bit like a comic book, and we're going to see some comic book elements come in a couple, maybe a minute or two. Now we can see the objectives. Frank writes in his journal as he goes. There's no like, oh, today I saw a cute duck or something, but he writes about what he does and how his job is going, because sometimes he's kind of not super, he's not very in agreement with Sally or his other like teammates or colleagues, so he's gonna write his version of what happens. You can examine a lot of items and interact with a lot of them. So now Frank's just examining what's around him after picking up his phone. Now the car AI is gonna talk back to him, and Frank doesn't like, he's not the most techie guy, so he doesn't like technology kind of talking back to him. And now that he has to create a diversion, he's gonna try to figure out how to distract the guard in order to get back into the pub. The guard, the bouncer. And now he looks at the crowbar. Seems like it might be useful, so now he's gonna try to pick it up. But someone does not want his crowbar stolen, so now he is rightly pissed at Frank.
That crowbar.
And now we see some conversation again with a very angry homeless man
Margaret? How's about I smash your fucking kneecap instead?
that does not take too kindly to Frank trying to steal his thing.
She's a girl then.
So
Give me some
we're gonna have to
bloody
find another way to.
I'm dying.
Now we're gonna
Dying of
create a
thirst.
diversion to get back into the pub. We're gonna have to
Why don't you take a
distract
nice
the
nap
homeless man or the vagrant from
Piss off.
watching over his
Not
tool.
giving my
So
girl Margaret
what
to
can
a
Frank
greedy
do?
scummer like you. Shh. We're all
So
right.
now that's our first example of a puzzle that we're gonna. There's, let's say, 20 to 30 of them in the game, maybe more. They're not really numbered, but we have puzzles in the game. So this is an adventure game in the classic style, without the kind of read a walkthrough or you won't find your way through style of the old ones. I'm probably know what I'm talking about. So we have different puzzles where you have to find items, you have to find the correct way to use items, you have to kind of figure out how machines work, and how sometimes you have conversation puzzles as well, where you have to convince people to kind of go with your plan or kind of help you, sometimes against their best judgment, but you have to kind of deal with those. So now Frank, I think, is finding a way to get the vagrant out of the way, because he found some pocket change from the phone booth that the vagrant was asking for it. So it's the start of the game. It's a simple puzzle. But now we can look at the inventory, because it's an adventure game, but it has like role-playing game elements. So you have an inventory with weapons and items that you can use, because we're going to have combat in a couple of minutes. So you're exploring the world, you pick up objects and items and tools and weapons, and you're going to be able to equip them to your character to make them better or alter how their attacks affect the enemies. So now Frank's a little smartass, so he's going to kind of not poke fun, but kind of break the vagrant's balls a bit. So now he gives him the pocket change. The vagrant's pretty happy. Got a couple bucks. He's gonna go shopping for something to drink.
More like time for old Mickey boy to buy himself
So now
something nice and strong.
he's out of the picture. He's gonna go away, and then now the way is clear to borrow, air quotes, his crowbar and move on with Frank's plan. So now he's gonna examine it a bit. Oh, now Vagrant's out. We're going to be able to pick it up. Now we pick it up, and we've acquired it. So now with a crowbar, let's see what Frank can do about that. Now we see another element of the adventure system where you have action points that determine what you can do during your turn. Once you run out, you just hit end turn, and like the world the earth keeps spinning a bit while your turn is over, and then your turn starts again. And sometimes things will happen between your turns, so you could get jumped by enemies. You could have a big thug that's gonna start beating up somebody in the alley, for example. And now Frank's gonna go into the alley to investigate what's happening and to make progress on his plan. So he smashes the padlock and walks into the alley. So we've seen a couple of comic books. We see onomatopoeia on screen with the blood splatter. Those are all comic book style elements that we put into the game, that we inject here and there in the game in a good number of places, that kind of reinforce the hand-drawn style and the overall style of the game. To just like, we have like the hand-drawn faces of Ian and Frank and all the characters that have speaking roles, and these are all like stylistic elements that help build the game's atmosphere and style and everything. So we've seen we've seen a couple of puzzles. We're going to see a couple more before the demo ends. And now Frank's kind of trading barbs, Frank Barber, with Ian, where now he's basically a mob bill collector. So he's noticed that Frank has a big bill next to his name, so he's going to try to collect right now. So this might go badly for Frank, because Ian is kind of a mountain of a man. We get a little tutorial explaining how the game's elements work, so we can read them, or you can read them on your own if you pick up the demo. That's called Sunday Gold Prologue on Steam. It's available right now as I speak because I'm playing it, and I downloaded it off Steam by myself without having a dev code or anything. And it's free. You can play it all that you want. You can explore some of the things that I haven't explored. You can play the game and see how it feels. And also, at the same time, you can, I really recommend going to the Sunday Gold, like straight Sunday Gold page, and wishlist it, so that when it releases on September 13th, you're going to get an email that says, like, hey, Sunday Gold's out. You can pick it up right now. So, little advice there. And now we see Frank beating up Ian, that is not ready to go down yet for the count, so he's gonna try to get back up, but Frank is just still in an ass-kicking mood and disposes of Ian pretty easily. It's the first fight of the game. I'm not gonna put an insane boss to start the game. Now, other RPG element, we see Frank getting XP from his kills, and he also gets XP, well, all the characters get XP from completing objectives and some other actions in the game. We pick up items, so now Frank found 200 pounds rolled, neat little roll on Ian, so you can pick it up and keep it. So, also, the characters will often comment on what's happening, what they're doing, little bits here and there to just reflect on how the world goes and what they're seeing and experiencing in the game. So now we can search Ian after he's been taken care of. Now Frank didn't have any action points left, so the turn ends. Well, we manually end it because we can do stuff on our own that sometimes doesn't cost action points, like working the inventory and stuff. We see the victim. He's still alive, but he's not doing well, so he's gonna rest a little bit on that neat, comfy bed of trash bags. Frank searches him because, yeah, Frank doesn't care. He's a villain, so
I suppose he's
he's a lovable hero villain, but still, he's not a good guy overall. So he picks the guy's pockets, finds firecrackers, and a shopping list. So now we can see a little element that explains or showcases how the world is going outside of the game's context. This is the world, kind of little windows into the game's world. So now you can read it if you pause the video, or you could just go pick up the demo that's available right now. I've said it a couple times. And now Frank kind of looks around, kind of tries to figure out what to do. He thinks maybe, okay, now that he's beat up Ian, or killed him,
No worries, Bob.
he's gonna be able
Just
to
wanted
go
make
in,
sure
but
you
no,
would hear this in case
Bob
of
the
an
bouncer
emergency or
just
something.
doesn't want to hear it, so Frank is still outside.
Wait, what happened back there?
Nope.
Right there, mate.
Now, Bob the
Everyone
bouncer
liked
is
this when I
not
got
happy about a
Over
corpse in
south.
the alley, but whatever. Frank's outside and it's just still gonna be there in the morning. So,
And back off, Frank.
and Frank maybe should go home, but he still wants to get into the pub because he has to meet with Sally for a job. So let's find another way in. Still have to create a diversion. We can see the objectives, and the dumpster is full of trash. It's a dumpster. And now we have a little bottle of booze. So that's not going to solve anything right now, but still fun to have. And now Frank decides, okay, let's use those firecrackers in the dumpster. Maybe that'll like distract somebody or attract some attention. So nonchalantly tosses the firecrackers, starts a fire, and makes a little ruckus. And now Bob has more trouble
come
on his hands that he has
A
to
mess
clean up.
And another body to deal with. Ah,
So now Frank,
He'll be busy dealing with the
the
mess
coast
I
is
made
clear.
in the alley. Now's my chance to get back inside.
He can get into the pub. So good job, Frank. Now let's get in and see what's happening in there. Oh, there's a window as well. Apparently I felt like examining the window. But let's go see what's in the pub. Oh, the bouncer's not there anymore. Coast is clear. And now we get into the pub. You can notice that we heard the music a little muffled outside because the jukebox inside, but we can hear it better inside. And now Frank's just
Frank,
happy
over
to be basically in his second home, the pub, the Jolly Hangman. And now he got back in, he gets some XP, and now next objective, catch up with Sally. So Frank can go do his objective right away, or he can kind of just fool around a bit. Not fool around, that sounds like. He can just examine, explore before going to meet with Sally. So now he looks at a like football team crest on the wall. He examines a handbag on the table, and now he's gonna go chat with the patron that Frank beat up earlier. And he's probably still not going to be happy to see Frank because it was about 15 minutes ago. So now,
bloody ass.
as I
Easy,
said,
mate. Look,
there,
put your next pint on my
he
tab.
tries to patch
With
things up a
spread,
bit,
all right?
offers him a drink. You know, he's not that bad of a guy.
Pour me a glass of Hogan.
Now he's going to get a glass of Hogan Excelsior.
Good to see you, man. Cheers.
And now
Now tell me something. Why would a regular
Frank
bloke like you
is not a fan
honor
of
rich
Kenny
prick
Hogan.
like Kenny Hogan?
That's his thing, basically. Doesn't like the fact that he's a billionaire that just likes to show off and kind of get in everybody's faces. But the guy in the red shirt kind of worships him, so they have a little clash about that. That's what caused the fight earlier before the game starts.
My arse, you two topped it out.
Now Frank talks
Well, here I
to
am.
Samantha,
For better or worse?
the barkeeper,
Worse. Definitely worse.
and trade a little couple of jabs, and he goes to talk to Sally. Just a little context: Sally is Frank's old, colleague, criminal colleague. They work jobs together and kind of try to get by making
shit,
money
look at you,
from
still
stealing
one
things and committing various crimes. So now
Bloody
Sally
miracle, I'd say.
kind of
No kidding. Figured you would have got yourself
catches
all
up with
chopped
Frank.
up over one of those loans you keep
Just,
taking out.
Why is my business
in a
everyone's
full-screen
business these
conversation
days?
where we can see
Since
the
everyone
expressions
knows you
on the
haven't been
characters'
able to pull
faces.
anything
Now they're
top
pretty
shelf in
neutral,
a
but we're
while.
gonna have a little
Too right. How about you?
like Frank's satisfied and happy right now, so he's kind of feeling good about himself.
Working a real job.
And now
Who in the hell was desperate enough to hire someone
we changed the
like you?
conversation style, but they keep getting voiced, as we can hear. Now,
Now,
catching up about the old days and what they're doing now.
People still doing that shit. Don't they get enough from the kids?
And we have an adventure game with role-playing game elements, and basically eventually we're going to get to control a full team of 3 characters, 3 heroes. Now we meet Sally, and now we're getting introduced to the Desmond Cup, the Desmond Wells Cup, as well as the Kings League, which is basically the big, trendy, super popular future sport in the game's world. So you can imagine if, let's say, football, like American football or hockey or like European football, would be surpassed by
Kings League is
like
bad enough.
basically
What the fuck
mechanical
has happened to this
cyber dog
country?
racing with
now.
super violent
It's nothing
and
that hasn't
over the
been
top,
happening for years.
because we're
Makes me
in
yearn for the
2070,
good old days,
so
it does. Back when we were
we
robbing rich
kind of
to
teleport
feed
to the future.
Don't even say it, Frank. You were never a
And
Robin
now
Hood, and
Sally's
you know it.
satisfied as well. We have
Speaking
her
of,
satisfied face,
you
but
mentioned
sometimes
something
we
about
have
a job.
the angry face as
That I
well.
did. And here comes a man with an
We're gonna see
interesting
them.
story.
Oh, and now Sally introduces Gavin to Frank. He's coming out of the loo, just adjusting himself, and we can see the style, the art style
Meet Gavin.
that's reflected in the
The
2D
man's
and
got
the
some
3D
serious
characters.
info for us, and has even agreed to come along for the full ride.
Now Sally
Nice to meet you.
introduces Gavin
Sally's
and
told-
basically
Rather
tells
than
Frank
that.
that
What, we not
Gavin's
gonna have video
her
games together?
latest lead
Call your tits,
to
Frank.
try to get
Gavin here is a Hogan Industries
money
employee.
from their criminal enterprise.
Former Hogan Industries employee. Never
Gavin
catch me
is
working for those
very,
pig fuckers
very
again.
angry
Not
about
after what they've done to me.
when he talks about his former employer,
Disgruntled
Kenny
ex-employee.
Hogan.
Splendid.
So they
Very
all
good.
have this link
Wanna help you
about
blackmail your
not liking
supervisor?
him.
No, Frank. It's not amateur hour.
No.
Gavin was in IT, and from what he tells
Sally's
me, he had access
serious.
to every classified file in the company.
She does business and
There's a fucking
doesn't really
treasure
take
trove of info
Frank's
on Hogan. Whole
crap
company's
all the
covering
time.
up some kind of secret
But they get along.
operation. We just need the proof.
so now we have
And
our
that's why
3
I reached
heroes
out. Saw Sally's
getting
comments on
introduced,
one of Lady Shell's
and
posts. Did some digging.
throughout the game
You two
we
have made a
control
bit of
the
a
3
name for
heroes
yourselves.
in most of the
Hear 'em out,
situations
Frank. This
where
could be good for us.
we just use their abilities because they
And
kind of complement
We
each other,
pop into
where
Hogan Labs all
we have
nice
Gavin
and
the
easy
hacker
since I can badge you,
who
see.
can hack
You go
devices
to
and
my
machines and
office,
computers
and I scrape the
to
Hogan
either get
files
in
from
or
the network.
control them. We have
Where
Sally the
exactly
muscle,
are you coming?
where she basically
Well,
uses
I'm not
her
supposed to
strength
be in there, and it's
to
not something I can
move
do
big
remotely.
objects or open doors or
You two,
perform feats of strength.
obviously,
And we have Frank,
bring
the
certain
kind of
skills
sneakier
to the
guy
process.
that knows how to pick locks
You
and
know
uses
the
it
deal,
because he's a
Frank.
career
Muscle,
criminal, so he's
firepower, no
been
doubt
using it
pick
for
up.
years and years and
That's where
years.
we come in.
As Sally explains right now, I'm jumping the gun
Slip
a
in,
bit.
steal some computer info, slip out.
Now,
Nothing
Frank
else.
kind of
No
feels
helicopters,
blasé
no
about
chases.
the work,
Nothing else.
but
Easy peasy, lemon
he
squeezy.
still doubts like that it's
Yeah,
going
it's
to be
never
super
fucking
easy
easy
and that it's going to be
peasy.
valuable. So
What are on these files exactly?
it's all a matter of convincing
Things you
Frank at
wouldn't
this point.
believe, but you'll see for
But
yourself soon
Gavin
enough.
has seen some stuff,
Okay, big man. And
and he
what do
gets
we do with these
anime mad,
files
as
once
does
we have
Frank. So now
We sell them to Hogan's
they're trying
competition.
to kind of
Or
discuss
ransom them
how we could make money, or how
them?
they
Whatever
could make
happened
money
to heist and good old-fashioned
with
robberies?
their
Well, all you
with
needed
their
was a
crimes
bandana
and their
a
the data
boomstick.
that Gavin says is so
It is the
valuable.
money, Frank.
Nothing is ever easy, mark
No.
my words.
Nope.
And bringing Junior here along is just inviting trouble.
Frank is not convinced yet. So now he's caught up with Sally, gets a little XP, and levels up like a boss. Now he's super satisfied and gets new abilities as well as better stats to get more hit points and better defensive stats. So we can hit OK. And we get a little tutorial, of course, because we're trying to teach you how to play the game. But you're pretty smart, you're going to figure it out. Now, we talk to the bartender, and that concludes the prologue, where we get a little kind of get a bit of TV about how Kenny Hogan and his monster dog have won the Desmond Wells Cup today.
Anything you'd like to say to all your adoring fans and supporters?
Frank is not a fan.
Remember this.
fucking life.
As I said earlier, Kenny Hogan likes to show off and remind everybody that he's awesome and they all suck.
Well, here's a tip you can take to the bank. If you're broke, if you're beaten down, it's your own bloody fault. So get comfortable, because winners will always be winners.
Frank is rightly triggered, and now
Let's make a
gets
bloody fool
pissed
of this twat.
and is now in with Sally's plan. So satisfaction, and now intro sequence. So this is how the game starts. The prologue, well, the demo isn't done yet, so we're going to see a little bit of chapter 1, and now we can see the game's introduction. It's time to get serious now. Also, to recap just a bit, we've been introduced to Frank, Sally, and Gavin.
Right.
They
What's the bloody plan
cooked
again?
up a plan to go steal some information at Hogan Industries HQ, and now they're
over it
getting the
twice.
plan on their way. But Frank's kind of
Yeah, but I
he's
weren't
aloof
really
a bit,
listening.
and he's gonna not
you're
really
a
paying
real
attention, so
true
Sally
villain,
has to
ain't
repeat
ya?
it.
The
And Gavin
plan
is not stoked about that.
We get Gavin back to his bloody
But
office. So
as
he
I
can
said,
pull the server
the game
onto his
has
compact.
is
Once
kind of
we
a
have the
thriller
file,
where
we
you
just
kind of
walk
try
right
to
out.
not you
No
try,
mud,
but
no
you
blood.
discover the big
no
the
blood.
villain's big
that
plans.
ever happens.
Not to spoil anything,
You're saying
and you
it's not a
discover
good
like
plan?
everything that's happening in that crazy
I'm
world.
just saying, no
But
plan
at the same
ever
time,
survives
there's
contact with the enemy.
funny, like
guys,
fun
I'm
bits
starting
of
to think maybe
dialogue
this is
and
not-
interactions between
Come on
characters,
now, my
and
son. It's lock and load time.
as well as some horror elements, because you can't be all horror, all gloomy all the time. You kind of have to have some levity in there. So you have some fun bits, you have some horror bits, you have a good mix of everything. You have some challenging combat, and speaking of challenge, there's a composure system that shows how the characters, the heroes, kind of get mentally affected by what they're doing. So they can be scared, they can panic, they can be affected negatively in combat or outside of combat as well. But you can manage it with consumables and abilities, because Frank, as the sort of de facto team leader, is also good at kind of managing his team and improving their abilities sometimes with either a pep talk or a pep talk, basically menacing pep talk. So we get a little tutorial explaining that. Gavin is not a career criminal, so sometimes he's prone to freaking out a bit more than the other characters, so that's going to come just after the demo. So if you play the full game, you're going to discover that mechanic in its entirety. Now we can look at the new objectives and see what the mission is. And now Frank likes to write in his journal. I do. So that's basically, I wrote that thing. So put in a lot of
Hang on a
text in there.
second. Their security
I think there's fun bits in there. Hopefully everybody thinks the same. So now the characters
Could be
are
an easy
figuring
way to
out that
disable
maybe we can't just run into the building and just get
shoot 'em.
seen by every security guard in a 5-mile
Maybe
radius
look for a way to just
and then get the whole city on them. So they're gonna have to turn off the cameras. So that's the first little bit of objective in chapter 1.
Sure, whatever.
Frank
need to
kind
find a
of feels like
security
shooting
terminal.
cameras, but
it
Sally
controls the building's
reasons with him
security
and
systems
tells him,
remotely.
let's turn them off.
It should let us disable the cameras.
So
Well,
as you can
let's
hear,
find
the
security
characters
terminal
are-
real quick and get this show on the road.
I think the voice acting feels really good in the game. It sounds great. The characters and the actors did, well, the characters didn't do anything. They're 3D models, but the actors did a great job making the characters come alive. Because as someone who wrote some of the text in the game and the dialogues, it's super exciting to hear these voices kind of come to life. And then, oh, that line I wrote that I hear in my head, in my voice, usually, just becomes like something that an actual living character says. So that's really just some behind the scenes stuff. It's really exciting to do. Now we can see Frank using his skill tree to upgrade some of his abilities. We can quickly see some of Sally's abilities. She's going to level up in a couple minutes, so you're going to get a chance to see some of her stuff as well. We see their inventory. Sally, as the muscle, uses her fists and pistols to attack in combat. She doesn't have a pistol yet. She's going to get some later on. Frank has knives and small, like, one-handed melee weapons, as well as long guns. And Gavin has two-handed melee weapons like a baseball bat, as well as pistols. This is the database that shows you information about the game. It's mostly not technical stuff, but like details about elements of the game. We have bios for the characters. So now we have Frank's bio. We're going to see the other ones as well. And all stuff that was fun to write. Now, Gavin's the unbalanced hacktivist. Interesting portmanteau. And then Sally and Ian as well, even though he's not going to be seen anymore because he's been probably tossed in the dumpster near the bar. We have a database of the weapons as well. We can see all the items and the consumables that we've found so far. Bottle of booze, Birmingham's finest, and painkillers. Now, the next part of the plan, going to try to find the security terminal. There's security guards in the maintenance room, probably on a break.
Comes back stronger every year, he
And
does.
they haven't spotted the heroes yet,
What are you doing here?
but oh, now they have. And that security guard is not happy.
Hey, what the royal fuck are you doing in here?
That one either.
Funny,
That one isn't
I was just
happy
about to ask
either.
you ladies
So
the same thing.
now
So,
we can hear the music kind of picking up. Now the action's about to start. So again, building on the atmosphere of the entire game, where the music plays a big part, where you're gonna have quieter moments with kind of just moodier music, and then it kicks up to underscore some actions coming, or that some things are going really badly. And now Sally attacks with her fists. Gavin is gonna swing his baseball bat at the enemies to try to weaken them. And Frank, now we can see his rifle and some of his abilities. And we're gonna see it. Oh yeah, we're gonna see it now. So Frank can use special abilities. All the characters can, they just don't have them yet. But Frank is at level 2, so he's ready to use them. And now we can see more comic book style effects in combat, where when they use special abilities and land big hits that the enemies really feel in the morning or right now. Now Sally, as the muscle, is also the medic, because she, as we could see in the intro, she works in the dog shelter, so she kind of, she's a vet, but the basic mechanics are there for humans as well, so she can patch them up a bit. Now we can use items in combat, but we're going to attack instead. So we have different types of attacks. Frank can use 2 types of damage. He can use like slashing damage with his knives, but also regular damage with bullets. So when we attack enemies, we see the damage type that we're going to inflict on them next to their health bar. So now Gavin's going to do blunt damage, that's the fist. And blunt damage is regularly effective against human enemies, but now knives are more effective because we see a little green arrow pointing up. So if we use the knife to deal damage to that enemy, you get more damage, and they lose more defense buffs that are represented by the shield next to their health bar. Now Sally smacked the enemy in the face. Now he's kind of staggered, so he's more vulnerable, and Frank's going to be able to deal a lot more damage to him now, and he's going to be more accurate. But even that wasn't good enough to hit with 91%. Frank probably has played XCOM in the past. For those who know, you know. Now, all the characters get XP, and Sally levels up because she got enough XP to reach level 2. So we see her satisfied face. she levels up and gains a couple of new abilities. I think we're gonna go see her talent or skill tree as well in a couple of seconds.
Well then, there goes the whole no
Now,
blood bit.
Yeah,
Frank kind
shut
of
it,
goes
Frank.
smartass on Sally.
Told you,
Tells her
no plans
your
of
no
harsh
blood
contact
plan
with
is
the enemy.
really working fine. But now we can see Sally's skill tree with new abilities unlocked, because as she levels up, she progresses through towards the right and gains. Now she can put upgrade points into her brawler skill to deal more damage. We can check the objectives at any time during the game. And now Gavin's gonna go try to hack the surveillance panel, the surveillance terminal, after we look at the different items that are interactive in that room. So it's worth it to explore and try to find special items or things that could be interactive and useful in every room. Now we get Gavin introducing his minigame, because every hero, as I mentioned earlier, has a specialty,
I built this device
and each of
that
their
lets me interface
specialties
with any
is
powerful
associated with a
protected
minigame. So
system.
Gavin's
It converts the encryption
hacking
into a numerical
skill
code that can be deduced
is
via trial
this
and
minigame
error.
that
It
we're going to
gives
see
clues
played in a couple of
as you make the
seconds.
guesses. It's pretty neat.
He
Sure.
kind of techno-babbles
Totally.
his way
Once
through the
combination
explanation,
of
and
advanced
Frank
tells
doesn't
you if
get
you're close to
anything,
the correct
so
code,
he
then you're
makes it
fine from
simpler
there. Get
to
it?
make sure that Frank and the player
Okay.
understands everything that's
I
happening.
need to be careful though. I only get a few attempts before the
So-
system kicks me out and resets.
Now we're going to see Gavin's kind of Hacker Boy Ultra device in Elite Speak, of course. And now we can play a little mastermind minigame to try to figure out how the code works to unlock the surveillance terminal. And this, be assured that this doesn't spoil the code for you, because it changes every time. It's only based on the difficulty of the object that you, or the machine that you're going to hack. So every time it's going to be different. So you won't spoil this code if you're watching right now. But you're going to be able to figure out how it works if you're playing the Prologue, available for free now on Steam, or the full game that's going to release on September 13th on Steam as well for PCs. And now we have Gavin that has successfully hacked the surveillance terminal, but the job isn't done yet. You have to go disable the cameras, so we're going to end the turn because the characters don't have much AP left, action points. And now, the alert level tutorial as well. So as you stay longer in the building right now, you're going to, the enemies, well, the security guards and various enemies are going to become more aware of your presence, so they're going to be more dangerous. Now we can fiddle with the computer a bit. We have different interfaces. Apparently in 2070, text interface is all the rage. Can disable the cameras through command line, and we're good. So if we leave,
And it's done.
Gavin has done his work.
The cameras are disabled.
He's
We'll be able to get into the lift without
proud of himself.
even being seen.
See, Frank? Gavin's got skills.
And Sally is kind of proud
And
that she
probably a
picked up
wonderful
Gavin.
dose of the clap too, you filthy
But
creature.
Frank still isn't convinced. It's gonna take a while. Now Gavin levels up. See a satisfied face, and he gets new abilities as well. So every level you get something new to play with. Sometimes it's gonna be a super awesome combat ability. Sometimes it's gonna be a useful upgrade skill or a out of combat ability that's gonna come in. Sometimes a couple of both. And now we can see Gavin's skill tree. If you want to theory craft right now, knock yourself out. You can pause the video if you want. And now I picked up some points for Gavin's rush ability that lets him damage all the enemies in the group. So that could be useful. We're not going to use it because the demo's almost over. Not to spoil anything, but now we can explore a bit. But first of all, there's a giant trail of
Hey,
blood that we're going
come have a
to
look.
take a look at, because that's not supposed to be there.
There's a lot of blood.
Sally's disgusted
It
face.
goes from the elevator to the other side of the gate.
Something really, really bad
now-
must have happened. It's not
That's
usually
Gavin's
like this.
scared face.
Well, that's good to know.
So There's a giant trail of blood in the parking lot. This is not
All right,
supposed
Gav.
to be there.
Which floor?
19.
And now this concludes the demo. So, as the screen says, thank you for playing. Just to remind you that you can pick up the prologue and play the demo and examine the objects that I didn't examine as I was playing, and maybe do a couple of other things in it that you can explore. Right now on Steam, it's free. You can just go download it and play it right now as much as you want. You can also wishlist Sunday Gold on Steam, the full game, to not be warned, but be kept aware of when it launches, September 13th. You can put that on your calendar and a reminder and everything. And just to say thank you for being here today and watching, and to remind you that I am Felix, from a game designer at Become Studios from Quebec City. We have made Sunday Gold. I think it's great. I think you're going to like it. So it's the work of like 24 developers, artists, and creators that are very talented and very dedicated, that did a lot of great work to build that game. And what else is there to say? Thank you. Hope you enjoy it. I hope to read your reviews. You can comment on the video, I guess, but that doesn't really matter. Just play it, tell us how you feel, and thank you for being here. So have a great day, adventurers. Hope to hear from you soon.